Hey guys, welcome back to another Black Desert guide video. At the time of making this, PDO, EU, and NA recently had the Underwater Zone expansion with 3 new spots added to the game. It's quite old content as far as Korea is concerned, but for us it's new, and I've been asked if I can make a guide like I did with Histria. At first I thought that it wasn't worth it. This spot requires more gear than most people have in the game, and it's really worth putting all the effort into making a guide when it benefits so few people. Also thought since I was new to grinding the spot as well, I might not be able to give that much insight. However, after a few days of hardcore grinding here, I feel I can give some good pointers and insights to grinding the spot. And to be honest, when I made the history guide, it was at a time where most people couldn't grind there either, but it was still well received, and not a huge amount has changed since then, so the guide still remains relevant for new people entering Histria. So I'm hoping for the same kind of thing here, and maybe just want to watch some BDO content. I've been bad about not uploading, always feeling I had no real idea what I wanted to make a video about, so I hope you guys enjoy this one. So what is Sycraia Abyssal Ruins, which I may be mispronouncing, so we're just gonna say Abyssal Ruins for short. It's the 280 AP spot, and as you can guess, it's the hardest of the 3 underwater spots. The node is Racid Island, and can be invested into for the extra drop bonus. It covers both the spots, both 280 and 230 spots. And the normal way to enter is gathering 5 fragment keys, which you can form into 1 key and enter at a platform in the upper ruins. You can have a friend or a GM summon you as well with either a compass or a command to gather. The requirements being tossed around vary from person to person, but I recommend you have 269 AP with Kudum minimum, or 265 with Tep Black Star is probably fine because of the extra monster damage, and a minimum of 324 DP, which may sound arbitrary, but I've heard people throw around the 320 mark, and that seems like a lot more arbitrary to me because 324 is a sort of the new DP bracket. In this case, you get 17% DR versus you get 16% on 320. The spot will still be dangerous at this point, and there's no way a mindless grind. Conversely, my DP of 324 at Histria gives me a vast amount of mindless grind protection. It would also recommend you use the new Frenzy Draft Elixir. If you're unable to obtain this elixir off the market, just farm 4 essences from the 230 spot and make 4 elixirs before you start with Abyssal. Once you start grinding Abyssal, you should drop more essence compared to the elixirs consumed in 1 hour, netting a positive gain, especially with a loot scroll. The elixir provides much needed hit point regen for many classes because of the damage that the Abyssal mobs are capable of, as well as providing a similar crit percent benefit to what Giants gives. It also grants 20 monster AP. The downside being twofold. First, just like the normal Frenzy Elixir, gives you minus 15 DP, and second, it doesn't provide crit like the Giants Draft. This means if you use Giants Draft to achieve 5 crit, you'll need to reach it via a different source. For example, I use Spirit Perfume to do this. You can also bring a Kama Potion like a Spirit Essence of Earth to provide some extra DR. So with all this danger, high gear requirement, and setup, what can you hope to obtain from Abyssal Ruins? First, unlike Histria, Abyssal Ruins provides a much higher return of XP than the Mystic Nest. I'm not entirely sure of the difference to Murmok, as I kind of avoid that place, but you will notice the XP increase yield. So feel free to pop XP scrolls, as it's worth it in my opinion. The trash is also worth more at 18,000 versus 15,000 in Histria, while also being gained at a competitive rate, although some classes at the 269 Kudum bracket may feel Histria to be more money and trash. The classes that can farm good money at Histria now probably may feel Histria is more money. The spot also drops just as many, if not more, crystals in Histria, which will be good when Manos life skilling is added, and also drops decent Caphras, which you cannot get at Histria. Abyssal's expensive drop is the Tungrad Ring, which can be directly dropped or obtained via a red and a black shard, both of which do drop in this spot. Unlike Tungrad Earrings, however, Tungrad Rings, the red shard is the rarer of the 2 and the more expensive drop. Of course, the downside is that there are no scrolls to drop here, at least not memory fragment related. The rest of the guide I want to talk about how to approach grinding the spot and what to look out for. Just like in a history guide, there will be an emphasis on Ranger. However, you can of course take in the information about pulls and what to look out for with the mobs. I'll focus on the main rotation simply because I have the most experience there, and I've tested multiple ways and directions of grinding it, but Abyssal has many rotations, and I recommend testing some of these out, as you might prefer a different spot in Abyssal, which is much better than Histria in terms of different rotations. So the main rotation is located by 2 NPCs. One is the repair and potion vendor and also provides some dailies, and the other one is the current event vendor where you turn in trash for event coins. However, After the event, I think he's removed. I'm not entirely sure. So by the time you're watching this and you get to Abyssal Ruins, he might be gone. I'm not really sure. Once you get started, you will notice that unlike History, you cannot CC these mobs, which for most classes is bad news. But for us rangers, this levels the playing field, as History is kind of grinded by stunning locking the mobs and then farming back attacks. And of course, rangers have these gimped ranged back attacks, which means we can't attack mobs with back attacks, even if we're behind them, if they're not right in front of us, which is impossible for grinding packs of mobs. This means we lose a ton of speed in History over other classes, but not here. This does mean you need to be careful with the mobs though, as they're always active and the Frenzy Draft will soon put in loads of work. Luckily, their attacks are not too quick if you move around a lot. They take time to readjust for a new attack. They turn fast, but they don't attack fast. You do need to keep an eye out for the Lycans. They have a knockback. They kind of spin up in the air, and this is kind of the lesser of two evils when it comes to the two only CCs you need to watch for. The more dangerous, and the one more likely to result in a dead Jin Viper, is the knockdown the big mobs have. In the rotation I'm showing you, you only need to watch for the Kareba mob. It's a giant crab, and he likes to pick up a giant stone and bring it down and knock you down. This is extra dangerous as it appears to linger the CC even after the initial period of bringing the stone to the ground. They also have a charge skill, but this has never hit me as far as I can remember because it's so telegraphed. I assume it's knockback, but I'm not sure. It may also be knocked down, so just watch out for it. They kind of flash blue and then charge. It's very easy to dodge. Even your grandma could get out of the way. As a ranger, you need to move around a lot. You actually can achieve kind of some of our scuffed back attacks by swapping direction quickly with Waltz of Wind, so high FPS is very important here, just like any endgame grind spot. And applying Breezy and rushing to the back can often achieve quite good damage. I like to use the Awakening, but I also missed the 269 Kudum bracket with my bow at the moment by 1 AP, so that's part of the reason. But also the bow skills that are relevant to grinding this kind of mob group are stamina hungry. But I recommend using Blasting Gust when you can to lower the mob evasion. You can use Will of the Wind as filler damage, as well as Razor Wind as well, which can be cancelled into Penetrating Wind. And of course, use Wailing to buff your crit and lower their range DP. I usually transition to the bow using Vine Knot into Heavenly Knot for the attack speed from Vine Knot and then the power that Heavenly Knot brings. These mobs are super easy to group and are very, very fast, so I just pull them to the Karebas. Try to only pull one at once though, the big mobs that is, because if you kind of need to avoid the KD before you get deleted. If you pull two, that's generally okay. But 3 is really scary, and honestly, I wouldn't even risk it. You should move to a new pack and not. The risk is far too high of like a knockdown and then instant death. I mean, sure, maybe even 9 times out of 10 it doesn't happen, but with 3 mobs, it's gonna happen eventually, so just be careful. On the rotation I'm showing you, there's also one tower called Eyes of the Deep Sea, I believe, that hits you with a move and attack slow, which could be quite deadly, so I recommend pulling on top of it and then killing the tower, that is, as you clear the pull. As long as you move a lot, this seems to avoid the annoying slows. I tend to use Evasive Explosive Shot as its iframe on cooldown, in PvE at least, and it actually provides solid DPS while I'm waiting for the pull, and especially if you're doing it on the tower, it does extra damage to the tower while you're waiting on the pull, so that's good as well. But you need to be careful because that kind of slow is very, very scary in a place like this. The other towers do exist. There's a couple varieties. I'm not entirely sure what they do. Some of them do damage and they're scary, but for the most part you can avoid that. I've heard that one of them summons Karebas. I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not, because the problem is when you pull Karebas, they're actually underground. Some of them, you don't see them initially when you make a pull, so I can't confirm that, but it may also be true. But if you run the rotation like I do, it shouldn't be a problem. So that wraps up the guide. I hope you guys found it informative and entertaining. Of course, there may be changes to the spot, or I may learn things as I go along, so feel free to ask me on the stream. I'll always be able to answer questions there as well about the spot. But yeah, good luck in the spot. Be careful, be safe. It is a dangerous spot. Be very cautious and pay attention while you're grinding here. Otherwise, you might set yourself down in money. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope to catch you on the next video. I'll leave the grind on a little bit so you can just see a little bit longer after I'm done talking. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.